Okay, so welcome to the internal workshop. It's D-Man here from D-Man's Workshop. There's been a lot of questions in the Luban group recently about how to use it, especially for doing life size prints. Now, I am by no means the expert on life size. In fact, I'm still fairly new to it myself. There are a lot of other people out there who've been doing it a bit longer than I have, like Luis Garcia and a couple of others in the Luban group and outside. So please, I'm always open for learning new stuff, but I figured I'd do this quick video to show people how to, or how I go through and create my life size or life size scaled models. So I've got a basic Goku here, which seems to be all the rage at the moment with life size people on their prints. So Dragon Ball Z is still carrying strong, even after 20 or 30 years. I remember when I was a kid. But as you can see here, the number we've got up here, 160, 140, 120, this is millimeters. So please bear in mind that as we look at this scale here, we are in millimeters. So when we do scale up, we need to keep that in mind. So I think Goku is about 6 foot, so that's about roughly 1800. So what I tend to do first is I will go into my object, down to transform, and then I will scale up here until I see the number encroaching roughly about the top of his hair. Here should be about 1800. So if we scale it up 6 times, he's only about 750. So if we double that to 12, oh no, still there's 1800 right there, so maybe 15. A bit too tall there. So again, like you will have to work it out. There is another way you can do this as well. I just do it this way first. So I might go 13.5. It brings you about 1.7, no, maybe 14 then, when his hair is really tall. So you can sort of see just under 6 foot with his top of his head, and then his hair obviously reaching above the 2 meter mark. So then I hit OK. That now is scaled to that, so you can see in the millimeters down the side here. From here I then go into mesh and repair, just in case there are any open vertices. As you can see here, there are no edge defects, but 220 vertex defects found. So that could be unwelded vertices, non-manifold edges, n-gons, which are more than 3 or 4 sided polygons. So then it goes and opens up another panel there. So I always minimize the original. So then it shows, just bear with me while I change. There we go. Into this mode here. So you can see up the top now, it says Goku and repair. So from here, we can zoom in a bit more just so we can sort of see this happening. So what I like to do is after this, I'll go into the cut. Now I'm currently using the Bambic X1C for most of my prints at the moment, but you want to select millimeters. Like I said, we did millimeters over here. We want to select millimeters in our scaling. So currently we're still in rotation. My bed's set at 250 by 250. I allow that 6 mil buffer zone around. Instead of the border clearance, I just slim my plate down a bit. So you can sort of see it sets up a basic grid. Close cut and axial cut. So axial cut is more determined if you're doing, say, a pole or things like that will help it cut, whereas axial cuts will cut on the axis regardless of how the model is sitting. So a non-axial cut will cut this arm along its plane, like a cross section, whereas an axial cut at the moment when it is turned on will cut it across the X, Y and Z axis. So generally, if you want to do a dowel, I usually run my dowels at a size of, I think, 6 mil I'm using currently. Depth ratio is fine, you can always trim them down. And I usually chuck between 2 and 3, just to, their alignment pins for me, because I use E6000 or an Australian equivalent for my adhesive, as well as CA glue or super glue every now and then. But so you've got your size here, so you can sort of see the model size in its Z-axis is 2 meters and 68 millimeters, so 2068 millimeters by the width and breadth of it there. So bear in mind that you can change it here. So if I wanted to go 1800, I can just type in 1800, hit enter, and it rescales it. So now the top of the hair sits at 1800. But we will go back to 208, no, 2068, was it? Yeah, 2068. There we go. And that puts his head roughly at the top of 6 foot there. 250 by 250, close cut. Yes, I always do. I don't need to number my parts, but if you do, they will generate a part on each of the pieces to help you align them later. So dowel, I usually leave most of these settings as they are, and then I hit cut. It'll think for a bit. The next window that opens up is where to save it to. So you won't see that now because I've got my screen recording just on the program itself. Select the folder. Tell you what, I'll close it down. I'll open that up. There we go. So now we're following the screen as it is. That's processing. You're watching this live. I may skip it. And there we go. So as you can see now, it hasn't cut it cleanly on the grid. That's because we are using, or Luban's algorithm allows for off-centered cuts. I believe that is the close cut option. But if you want to find out how it all looks, then you press E to explode the model and it'll explode them up. So you can sort of see here, it's created a solid mesh. So what I forgot to do in this instance is hollow it out. So bear in mind, you can sort of see while we're here, pressing E to explode, you'll see where all the pins go in. 1, 2 on that one there. On the side, you've got another pin there. So you can sort of see all those location pins and the numbers, number 48 and 42. But what we're going to do is also press R to reverse or restore, and that'll bring it all back down. So we're going to go back a bit. I have saved this one as a solid piece, and some people do print them out in solid. I do like to hollow them out. So we're going to go back into the original one. That's something else I was doing, sharing something else. So this is the Goku. So again, I'll go through and do the repair. We are scaled in the right scale. So from here, mesh, hollow. Now this here is increment in millimeters. So for this size here, 10 millimeters should be fine. With that troll head that you saw, because it is a life-size rock troll, that head alone is about, I think, 1 meter or 2 meters tall itself. Try to do a 10 mil wall on those and the print will fail or to crash the Luban. You must increase the wall size dependent on the model that you're using and the quality of the model. So this one here with Goku is quite a low resolution, whereas that rock troll is quite high. So the higher the resolution, you may find a thick wall is needed, but generally a 10 on the wall thickness should be fine. And then obviously Luban opened up a new window, so it's repaired and hollowed. Now to check this, to check if it's hollowed well, we're going to click up here on this little AND clip, or the little red square here. It'll come up with a box, and that bounding box there, you'll notice how the red highlight shows which face. So this is where you can check if it's hollowed or not, because we're going to slice through the model thereabouts. So by clicking on the top one, we're then going to drag it downwards, and you can see it's created a 10 millimeter wall through the entire model. Now this is what you want to notice. You see these darker spots here. I believe that's because the walls aren't thick enough, so we'll change back to the rotation. And we'll see, say in through here, there may be a discrepancy or an error coming up through where that is, or it could be an internal issue with the model. But you can scrub all the way through and making sure it is hollowed all the way through. So like I said, I usually hollow out my models. A lot of people don't. They'll use the flat bases, and it is personal preference. I find for me, I use less material when I do hollowing out, but because it creates an inner wall and an outer wall, there is a bit of discourse on if it actually saves time and filament. I actually like it because then I can actually fill the bottom of the prints with concrete, wet sand, whatever it needs to help stabilize the print as well. So we've hollowed it out, we've sized it up, we've repaired it. Now we're going to cut it, and we'll do the same thing. Millimeters. I'm going to make sure that all our settings are okay. 2068 was the height, 250s. Yes, yes, and yes. We are going to number them, use dowels, and we're going to use a 6 millimeter dowel. Now this tolerance is to allow for the size of the dowel and the size of the hole it creates. So it creates a negative 0.2 variance, which means if you go into the negatives, it'll create a gap between them. If you go into the positives on this, it will then shrink it down and create a tighter fit. So please bear in mind that if you're finding your connectors too loose, adjust this to a value closer to 0 or into the positives. Or if it is too tight, then adjust obviously into the more into the negatives, so 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and that will create a larger and larger gap. So you can use those to refine what you're doing with your connectors. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Again, I'm just going to save it into the folder. So each time it saves, it will save with the file name and the date and time that you've done it. So you can always differentiate between the individual files that you are cutting. So if you do want to do tests, whether you want to do a hollow test or a box test, and then again, we're going to press that E. It's cut it pretty close to the same one. Yeah, 82 parts here. Now these are all estimated time. So printing time is an estimate, weight is an estimate. The parts aren't. But everything else is, because your printer, slicer, infill settings, the type of speeds you're running on your machine, and the filament you're using all play a factor. This is just a guideline, because you want a rough understanding. So we press E, have a look at all our parts, and we can see that there are no major artifacts. We've got a couple of very small, a thin piece there, which we can go through and readjust if need be, but depending on where it sits in the model, if it's an internal piece, we might be able to get away with it. So we're going to find out where it's actually sitting. So yeah, a couple of small pieces just where it cuts. Now we can also change that on the transform, moving Goku left or right, rotating him in the world space of Luban. But if they're internal, then I generally wouldn't worry about them. I'm just making sure that my connections are going to have enough for my glues and my dowels. And you can see here the model itself looks like there might be some geometry issues in there as well. So it gives you a good understanding to be able to pop in, have a look at the model, make sure all the pieces are to your satisfaction, and if you're happy with it, then go ahead and print it. That's pretty much it. Chuck it in your slicer. One thing you may come across, which I will show you now, it may be in this file. And I'm just going to bring it up. Where are we? Yeah, and then all right, so you can sort of see the ones that I've played around with before, back to last year. This is the one we've just done now. So when you're looking here, you're looking at all the parts. You've got the dowels, which if you're using wooden dowels, you don't need to worry about this. Your assembly sequence, which parts you should do in which order to put it all together. Your files to reopen it back up in Luban. Even the settings for the model itself. There you go. These tiny parts. All these tiny little pieces part of the cut, don't worry about them. They generally don't mean anything. You put them into the slicer, they won't register anyway. That's how small these parts are. Like 1 kilobyte, 7 kilobyte files. So all in all, I ignore these. I only put the parts in that save part. So even though we've got 82 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, so it's really only 72 to 70 parts rather than the 82. And then it does have the source mesh, which is the hollowed mesh that we just did. So hopefully that helps you understand how to do the life-size cuts and how I set mine up. Like I said, I'm by no means an expert in this, and I'm always open for learning new ways and new settings to make my jobs and prints easier, to use less filament, and to have better success in my life prints with using Luban. Until next time, keep making.